Discover the miraculous truths of the Old Testament, 7 transforming tales of divine redemption. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, as the people of Uar of the Chaldeans worshipped their myriad idols, the night was thick with expectation and divine purpose. Amongst the sprawling city, the great ziggurats towered against the star-laden sky, each stone etched with the promises of gods made by human hands, promises unfulfilled and dreams deferred. Yet amidst this cacophony of polytheism, one man stood on the threshold of something extraordinary. Abram, a seasoned soul of 75 years, began to feel a stirring that transcended the rituals of his forefathers. The sharp, haunting call of an unseen voice pierced the stillness around him, echoing through the bustling streets and resonating within the depths of his heart. Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. This proclamation swept over him like a rushing wind, stirring a profound tumult within. Could this be the maker of the heavens and earth, the singular Yahweh, beckoning him to abandon the very soil that had nurtured his life? With each step further from the familiar face of Uar, the weight of his lineage pressed upon him, a legacy steeped in idol worship, sculpted by his father Terach, who had known only the stone gods. The whisper of Yahweh proposed a life-altering promise: he would make Abram a great nation, a heritage that flourished from faith rather than fertility. However, fear intertwined with faith, as Abram grappled with the truth of his barren wife, Sarai, and the crushing weight of unknown trials. Around him, his neighbors continued their fervent offerings to statues that could not hear, practicing rituals that bore no fruit. Yet deep in his heart, a flicker of hope ignited a belief that Yahweh was more tangible, more real than the lifeless forms they revered. I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing, the voice reverberated in the chambers of his spirit. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As dawn broke over the horizon, the earth beneath his feet felt heavy with the uncertainty of departure, yet Abram gathered his household with a trembling heart full of promise. Together with Sarai and a small entourage, he stepped beyond the familiar shadows of Uar, feeling the weight of faith tugging at his soul, mixing exhilaration with fear. With each step, the landscape transformed, the sun casting golden hues over unknown territory. Could he really trust the divine call? A journey lay ahead filled with both peril and promise, with the countryside wide open before him, intricate with divine mist. The questions echoed, but soon they unfurled into acceptance, as he felt the divine whisper urging him onward, a hallowed invitation to forge a new legacy. In that moment, standing on the precipice of profound destiny, Abram knew the answer lay woven within the fabric of his faith. In their hearts soared the sacred hymn of possibility, a new story etched in the annals of time, bound by hope and the covenant of a God whose faithfulness would tether them through trials yet unseen. What lay ahead was shrouded in divine mystery, beckoning them into a new chapter of God's redemptive plan, awaiting revelation through the journey of faith. As Abram journeyed through the vast expanse, the promise resonated within him, echoing back to the moment he first heard the call of Yahweh. With Sarai by his side, he traversed the land of Canaan, a land he could only envision through the lens of faith. Each step was an act of worship, surrendering the familiar for the ephemeral promise of future blessings. Upon entering Canaan, Abram paused upon the lush hills overlooking the valley below. The land was rich and vibrant, yet the sight brought forth a sharp realization: the land was inhabited. In his heart, Abram wrestled with the tension of God's promise and the looming presence of the Canaanites, idol worshippers dwelling in the very land promised to him. The sun dipped low, casting shadows that danced across the ground, shadows that conjured fears within Abram's heart. He knelt in the soft earth, seeking the face of Yahweh in whispered prayer: Lord, how could your blessing dwell amidst such giants? Will you truly give this land to me and my offspring? In that sacred moment, the heavens opened, and the voice of the Lord enveloped him with grace. To your offspring I will give this land. As the words saturated the air, Abram felt the weight of the promise pressing down on him like a mantle of glory. In that assurance, his faith deepened, even as the doubts flickered like distant flames. The promise held within it not just land, but the very essence of a future woven into the fabric of divine grace. Abram built an altar in that place, a stone witness to the covenant between man and God. With trembling hands, he offered sacrifices, calling upon the name of the Lord. As smoke rose to the heavens, hope rekindled within him. He foresaw future generations who would inherit not only the land but the faith forged in trials. Yet the path did not ease. A famine struck the land in the days that followed, pushing Abram to the borders of Egypt. As fear rippled through his heart at the thought of starvation, a harrowing thought gripped him. He feared for the safety of Sarai, whose beauty might draw unwanted attention from the Egyptians. "Say you are my sister," he urged her through clenched teeth, "that it may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared." This decision, born of dread, weighed upon Abram's conscience. Little did he know that his misstep would lead to further trials. When Pharaoh took Sarai unto himself, unimaginable distress enveloped Abram, as the very thread of the promise hung in balance. The land that had been promised now felt treacherous and false, as Abram found himself trapped between faith and fear. Yet God, in his mighty sovereignty, was not to be thwarted. Plague struck the household of Pharaoh, causing the royal court to realize the divine hand at work, protecting Abram's wife and ultimately restoring her to him. Abram was escorted from Egypt with great riches, a testament to God's unwavering providence despite his faltering faith. Returning to Canaan, the promise loomed larger than before. The sacred legacy was still intact. Yet within the breadth of hope lay a deepening mystery. How would the promises of God unfold within the shadows of human frailty? As Abram reflected on these events beneath the canopies of Canaan, a burning question ignited his spirit: what will become of my offspring? I remain childless, and yet your promise is meant for a lineage. The winds of destiny whispered through the olive trees, carrying with them the weight of divine purpose, resounding that what he could not yet see was intricately woven into the fabric of God's sovereign plan. The next chapter was already being written, but the heart of the journey had only just begun. As Abram returned to the familiar valleys of Canaan, the land felt both vibrant and daunting. He had traversed the trials of Egypt, now bearing the weight of wealth yet feeling an emptiness in his heart. The promise lingered in the air like an unfulfilled melody: to your offspring, I will give this land. Abram settled in the region between Bethel and Ai, raising an altar to the Lord anew, calling upon his name with both love and desperation. O Lord, how shall this promise unfold? He prayed aloud, seeking clarity amidst the uncertainties that clouded his heart. Days turned to weeks, and the weight of longing deepened. Sarai, too, bore a quiet burden, her beauty now matched by the untold yearning for children that they both felt like a longing echoing through their souls. Each shared glance spoke the agony of silence, each touch a reassurance of the hope they clung to, yet both felt the cruel grip of time tightening around them. As they dwelt in peace and prayer, news from the land reached their ears of strife among the herdsmen. Abram's flocks and those of Lot, his nephew, began to clash, for both were prosperous and the land could scarcely support them. Discontent rippled through their camp, pulling at the fabric of their kinship. One evening, under the vivid expanse of a twinkling night sky, Abram approached Lot, wisdom guiding his spirit. Let there be no strife between us, for we are kinsmen. Behold, the whole land is before you. If you take the left, I will go to the right, or if you take the right, I will go to the left. Lot lifted his eyes towards the lush plains of Jordan, a land watered like the garden of the Lord, green and alluring. In his youth, he chose that which seemed best for himself, unaware of the lurking shadows of Sodom and Gomorrah. Abram watched as Lot departed, feeling anew the solitude of faith he bore. As the dust of Lot's path settled, the Lord spoke again to Abram, his voice clear amidst the silence. Lift your eyes now and look from the place where you are northward, southward, eastward, and westward. For all the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever. The promise was reaffirmed, and a fresh surge of faith washed over Abram. He moved through the land once more, marking the boundaries of a hope yet unseen. Days turned into further weeks, but the longing for a son remained a bittersweet longing in Abram's heart. He sought the Lord in restless nights, asking of the covenant that seemed delayed. Then came a whisper, an echo of a divine message, reminding him of the stars in the sky. So shall your descendants be. He recalled this promise, yet confusion tugged at his soul. How could this be? He remained childless, old and weary, each year passing like a breeze that whisked dreams beyond reach. Sarai, too, contended with her own despair. One day, driven by heaviness, she approached Abram with a plan. Behold now, the Lord has restrained me from bearing children. Take Hagar, my maid, that I may obtain children by her. Abram, entrapped between faithfulness and human desire, consented. The weight of choices began to unfold, setting the stage for a test of faith that would challenge the very fabric of their covenant with the Almighty. As night descended again upon their camp, the stars blinked defiantly above, singing the promise yet to be fulfilled. Little did Abram and Sarai know that within their grasp lay the intricate tapestry of God's sovereign plan, a plan that was not only for their future but for all nations to come. And so, the seeds of fulfillment began to stir, entwined with human will and divine purpose. What was written in the heavens above was being woven intricately into their lives below. Abram awoke before dawn, a heavy silence reigning in the stillness of the tent. The reality of Sarai's proposal weighed upon him like a stone, casting shadows over his heart. It was a choice of desperation or the promise of the Almighty, a choice that would twist the very fibers of their faith. As the sun broke the horizon, casting golden rays upon the land, Abram went forth to seek the Lord. He climbed a small hill to pray, his spirit wrestling with the magnitude of his decision. "O Lord of hosts," he cried, "you have called me from Ur of the Chaldeans, promising me a great nation. Yet, it seems your hand is delayed, and my faith hangs by a thread. How shall I fulfill your intentions?" The Lord spoke to him again, this time in a cadence of solemn assurance. "Abram, listen to me. Your doubts do not diminish my faithfulness. Even in your deepest struggles, I weave my purpose. The path to the promise may seem veiled, but I desire that you trust in my timing." With renewed resolve, Abram returned to Sarai, encountering her with vulnerability etched upon his brow. "My beloved, if it brings us to God's promise, we shall pursue your plan. Yet, let us remember the weight of our choices. Decisions bear fruit, some sweet, others bitter. We must entrust ourselves wholly to the Lord's will." Sarai's eyes flickered with a mix of hope and trepidation, and she nodded before calling for Hagar. When Hagar entered their tent, the air was thick with unspoken tension. "You are to bear a child for us," Sarai declared, her voice both steely and fragile. "In this way, we shall have an heir." Hagar stood before them, the glimmer of uncertainty gleaming in her own gaze. Though taken aback, she acquiesced for the sake of her mistress. Little did Sarai and Abram know that their pursuit of control would cultivate a storm of unforeseen consequences, a path strained by bitterness and rivalry. As seasons ebbed, Hagar's belly swelled, and Sarai's heart grew heavy with envy. The days once filled with laughter turned into poignant silences, as Hagar began to look upon Sarai with scorn. The tension escalated, and Sarai lashed out in anguish, "Abram, my wrong be upon you. I gave my maid into your arms, and now she despises me. Deliver me from this torment." Abram's heart ached at the tumult in his household. "Behold, your maid is in your power, do to her as it pleases you." Sarai's bitterness could not be stilled, and she treated Hagar harshly, causing her to flee into the wilderness, tears and fear her only companions. Alone in the desolate embrace of the land, Hagar found herself by a spring of water, feeling forsaken. There, the angel of the Lord appeared to her, radiating care and divine authority. "Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?" "Fleeing from my mistress," she responded, sorrow echoing in her voice. The angel's compassion shone through. "Return to your mistress and submit to her. I will greatly multiply your descendants, that they cannot be numbered. You shall bear a son, and you shall call his name Ishmael, for the Lord has heard your affliction." In that moment, a profound revelation gripped Hagar's heart. She returned to Abram and Sarai, emboldened by the promise given, the hope that surged from the ruins of despair. Though the path tangled with complexities, a glimpse of the sovereign plan unfolded before them. God, in his infinite mercy, would weave together their frail choices with his unwavering purpose. The chapters of their lives entwined into a narrative of faith, testing the depths of their trust and leading toward a destiny unknown. And so, the legacy of Abram began to ripple forth into the fabric of nations, setting in motion the divine tapestry of history. Yet among the promise lay a stirring question, one that would challenge the very essence of their faith: what trials must they endure for the covenant's fulfillment to emerge from the ashes of doubt? Hagar returned to the fold of Abram and Sarai, the shadows of fear slowly lifting with each step. As she entered their tent, the weight of her experience resonated, one of solace found in despair. She looked upon Sarai and saw not only a mistress but a fellow traveler of pain and longing. "I have heard from the Lord, and he has seen my affliction," Hagar proclaimed, her voice steady with newfound faith. Sarai regarded her through the veil of her bitterness, yet within her heart lay a stirring of awareness, a realization that even in their tangled choices, God was orchestrating a greater plan. With a heart softened, she took the hand of Hagar, and as they embraced, a fragile peace descended upon the tent. May God be with us in this, Hagar. Let us take courage together, for the promise of descendants lies within you." In the days that followed, Hagar bore a son, and she named him Ishmael, just as the angel of the Lord had instructed her. Abram, upon hearing his son's name, was filled with wonder. He sought the Lord's favor on the boy, trusting that the divine plan was unfurling even amid their struggle. Years passed, and as Sarai witnessed the growth of Ishmael, a complex joy emerged, a mixture of affection and lingering jealousy. Despite the Lord's steadfast promise, doubt lingered like a specter, haunting the corridors of her heart. She pondered inwardly, "Will I ever bear a child of my own?" The fertile soil of hope had become fraught with thistles of despair. One day, the Lord appeared to Abram once more, drawing him near with his divine presence. "Abram," he said, "I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be blameless. I will confirm my covenant between me and you, and I will greatly increase your numbers." At that moment, Abram fell face down, awe and reverence engulfing him. As the Lord continued, he unveiled the depth of his plan. "You shall no longer be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations." Joy washed over Abram, but a cloud swept across his brow as he considered Ishmael. "Oh, that Ishmael might live before you!" he exclaimed, hoping for mercy upon the son he loved. But God spoke again with clarity, "Indeed, your wife Sarai shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant." The promise shifted the landscape of Abram's heart. From that moment, he envisioned the fulfillment of a divine lineage that would ripple through generations. Later, within the sacred space of their tent, Sarai overheard the news. A laughter of disbelief escaped her lips. "After I am worn out, and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure?" Yet, even in her scoff, the Lord heard her inward struggle. The Lord, standing ever-present, responded to Sarai's doubt, "Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will return to you, according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son." In that moment, a divine weight settled upon her, as the fullness of God's timing began to unfold before the reluctant eye of her heart. As the years turned, the covenant promise twined ever tighter around the family tree of Abram, now Abraham, and Sarai, now Sarah. Yet within their life painted with divine strokes still lay an unsettling tension, a question of faith that whispered through the tapestries of their existence. How would the fabric of their story intertwine with the promise of many nations? In the unfolding mystery of God's sovereign will, they stood, poised on the precipice of a profound revelation, unaware that the nation birthed from their lineage would echo through the ages, leaving footprints of hope in a world yearning for redemption. The days were marked by seasons of anticipation, as both Abraham and Sarah waited on the Lord's promise to be fulfilled. As the sands of time sifted through the hourglass of their lives, the laughter of children remained a distant echo, lingering in the shadows of their hearts. Yet one evening, as the sun began to sink below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the plains, Abraham found himself in deep communion with the Almighty. "Lord," he cried out, "will you fulfill your word?" The weight of doubt clung to him like a heavy cloak. He remembered the promise the covenant sealed in the heavens, and yet he felt the chilling winds of uncertainty. Would his lineage truly be as innumerable as the stars in the sky? In that moment, the Lord responded, his voice like thunder wrapped in tenderness, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham. I have not forgotten my promise, nor will I ever forsake the work of my hands." Abraham's heart swelled, renewed in strength, as he abided in the truth of God's faithfulness. Meanwhile, in the depths of Sarah's soul, the divine promise was stirring. Though years of barrenness had sought to eclipse her faith, the seed of hope began to sprout anew. "Will there truly be a laughter of joy in this tent?" she whispered to herself, her faith wrestling with a lifetime of sorrow. The promise of Isaac lingered like warm light, beckoning her closer to the source of all hope. One day, while embracing the evening's quiet, 3 visitors arrived, appearing as men yet carrying the weight of divine presence. Abraham, ever the faithful servant, rushed to greet them, bowing low before their feet. "My lords, stay with me. Let me prepare a feast for you, that you may refresh yourselves before you continue on your way." As he hurried to provide hospitality, Sarah overheard the men speaking to her husband. "I will return to you in the season of life, and Sarah shall have a son." At the sound of these words, she laughed again, a sound laced with disbelief and an awestruck glimmer of hope. The Lord, perceiving her laughter, inquired, "Why did Sarah laugh? Is anything too hard for the Lord?" Those words pierced the fabric of her heart, revealing the depths of her doubt even while igniting a flicker of faith. In that solemn moment, she realized that the promise stood not in her strength or understanding, but in the unfailing and sovereign will of God. As Sarah's heart grappled with both trepidation and trust, Abraham returned to their side, astonished by the visitor's words. Shall the one who spoke life into existence fail to bring forth a child in due season? He thought, and both he and Sarah began to ponder the implications of such a divine assurance. Days turned into weeks as the promise loomed ever larger. The world outside their camp remained unchanged, yet within the hearts of Abraham and Sarah, a transformative journey was underway. They began to speak of Isaac, their future son, weaving his name into their prayers and hopes. Yet shadows lingered still, for Ishmael, beloved yet unacknowledged, grappled with feelings of isolation. In his youthful spirit, he sensed the changing tides of expectations and destinies. His insecurities whispered tales of rejection, shadowing the joy that had once characterized his place in their family. Abraham, perceiving the turmoil within, knelt in fervent prayer, "O God, may your mercy bind us as we navigate this path of promise. Lead my family through these trials, and grant us unity in your great plan." As the time of promise approached, a foreboding stillness wrapped around the camp of Abraham. The stars in the night sky twinkled with expectation, each light a reminder of what was yet to come. They stood, filled with longing and anticipation, at the threshold of the miraculous, unaware that the fruition of God's covenant was closer than they could comprehend. As the echoes of laughter danced on the breath of the wind, an unmistakable truth began to stir. The time had come for God's promise to manifest in their lives, but little did they know the tapestry of his plan was just beginning to weave a story that would touch the hearts of nations for generations to come. As the dawn broke over the horizon, casting a soft light upon the camp of Abraham, an expectant hush enveloped the tents. Each moment lingered thick with anticipation, like the heavy air before a storm. Both Abraham and Sarah awoke that morning with hearts full of hope, yet the memory of their laughter, the laughter of disbelief, lingered, a gentle reminder of the promises yet unfulfilled. Sarah, rising early to prepare the day, felt an unexplainable stirring within her. What is this strange joy? She pondered, her hands busy kneading the flour. It was a mixture of hope and trepidation, a dance reflecting the unseen struggle between faith and doubt. Would this be the day the promise tore through the veil of her barrenness? Meanwhile, Abraham turned toward his familiar place for intercession. It was here, among the whispering olive trees, that he had found countless conversations with God. "O Lord," he prayed aloud, "the day is dawning, and still we await the miracle. Will you bring forth Isaac, our laughter?" At that hour, the three visitors had departed, yet their words clung to him like the fragrance of fresh bread. After many years of wrestling with weariness, Abraham's faith began to take root anew. "Your promises are true, O God," he declared, standing resolute against the dawning day. As the sun climbed higher, it illuminated the faces of those encamped beneath its warmth. Sarah could no longer contain her thoughts, and in a moment of confusion, she turned to her husband. "What if our bodies cannot bear the gift that God has promised?" "Sarah, remember," Abraham replied, taking her hands in his, "the Lord spoke to us. His word cannot return void. He is faithful to complete what he has begun." A renewed determination ignited within them both. Early fruit of faith began to emerge where once there had been only barren soil. As the day stretched onward, Sarah took the words of the Lord to heart, whispering them into the winds that danced around their home. "I will return to you, and you shall have a son." The weight of her doubt began to lift, replaced with smiles that spoke of possibility. She wandered about their tent, speaking to the very fibers of her life. "Isaac, how sweet that name shall be upon my lips." It was no longer just an ethereal promise, it was becoming a reality, woven into the fabric of her spirit. Yet amidst the blossoming joy, Ishmael watched from afar. He had grown into a young man, and the distance he felt from the unfolding promise cast a shadow over his heart. He approached Abraham, seeking solace. "Father, I have loved you, yet I sense a distance. Will there still be a place for me in this new story?" Abraham drew him close, feeling the burden of his son's heart. "Ishmael, you are my son, loved and cherished. Surely you have a place in the heart of our family. God is sovereign, his plan is beyond our understanding. We will always embrace you." As the sun set, painting the sky with hues of orange and crimson, the promise stood on the precipice of realization. The earth itself seemed to hold its breath in reverent anticipation, as if all creation awaited the moment when laughter would fill their tent, echoing through the generations. But still, a great mystery lingered in the air, as the heartbeat of God's promise echoed in the night. For though the dawn spills forth light, the true awakening of hearts has yet to come. And little did they know, this gift of laughter would not only alter their family but would reverberate through the ages, preparing the way for a blessing greater than they could ever fathom. As the evening shadows deepened over the encampment, Abraham and Sarah shared a moment of stillness under the vastness of the stars. The cool air whispered of promises yet sublimated, and as they glanced toward the heavens, their hearts beat in unison with the divine assurance they had glimpsed that day. "Indeed, our God is faithful," Abraham murmured, gazing into the celestial tapestry. "His word is as certain as these stars. Each one, a token of his abundance." Sarah, filled with a mix of wonder and expectancy, turned her countenance toward him. "Abraham, what if the arrival of our promise bears trials we have yet to comprehend? How shall we endure?" "Fear not, my beloved," he reassured her, taking her hand. "For he who has called us is with us. Can we not trust the one who walked us through the shadows and into his light?" Their hearts whispered agreement, but unbeknownst to them, the precipice of divine fulfillment drew near. As the night took hold and the world slumbered, a profound silence blanketed the camp. It was then that the Lord spoke once more, echoing as if from the depths of their own spirits. "Abraham," came the voice, rich and resounding, "from your lineage shall come a multitude. Nations shall arise from your seed. You shall be the father of many." Abraham, startled, fell prostrate upon the ground, a gesture of submission and awe. "O Lord, how can this be? My years are but whispers in the wind. And the child you promise, how will it come?" In that moment, the heavens opened, and the presence of the Almighty enveloped him like a cloak. "My covenant with you is not bound by time, nor sustained by your strength but by my everlasting will. For I have named him Isaac, laughter, and indeed it shall be so." Just then, a light flickered within him, igniting faith anew. "I will trust you, my Lord. May your will be done." As dawn approached, the first light broke over the hills, spilling over the land like a cascade of golden hope. Within the tent, Sarah stirred, feeling an urgency that she could not comprehend but could not deny. A force enveloped her, whispering truths as ancient as creation itself. Stepping outside, she beheld the beauty unfolding around her, causing her heart to race. "Is it possible?" she asked soulfully, scanning the horizon where the sun would soon cast its full splendor across the earth. Before her stood Abraham, a man of faith, ready to embrace whatever the Lord ordained. "The day has arrived, Sarah," he said, his heart filled to overflowing. "The promise is near." Yet, as they clung to hope, Ishmael watched with confusion etched in his brow. The distance between him and the promise continued to grow, like a shadow hiding beneath the deepening dawn. Seeking wisdom from his father again, he approached. "Father, will you not also pray for my future? Will I not carry a part of your legacy?" Abraham, sensing the stirrings of not only paternal love but a divine rearrangement taking shape, placed his hand upon Ishmael's shoulder. "My son, you too are part of God's plan. He will bless you and make you fruitful, you shall be a great nation." And as the full sun ascended, illuminating the camp with warmth, a palpable tension broke like the dawn upon their expectation. "Laughter is coming," Abraham declared, his faith radiating into the very air around them. But still, the promise held a deeper mystery, as if a greater story lingered just beyond the veil of their understanding. Little did they know that true laughter would echo not only through their tents but reverberate across generations. For the covenant of laughter was but the beginning, a divine tapestry interwoven with events that would ultimately lead to a climax that none could yet foresee, heralding the birth of the one through whom all nations would find blessing. As the sun climbed higher, casting its rays upon the earth, the air was thick with anticipation. Abraham and Sarah exchanged meaningful glances, their hearts woven together in faith. The encampment buzzed with activity as the members of their household prepared for the day. But amidst the clamor, Sarah felt a stirring deep within her, a whisper that spoke of weighty significance. "Abraham," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion, "how shall we know the time of his promise? How shall we mark this sacred moment when laughter will arise in our midst?" Abraham, sensing her concern, took a breath and replied, "It is not for us to understand the timing of God's promise, my beloved. He knows the appointed hour. As he drew us from the land of Ur, so shall he lead us into the joy he has prepared. Let us walk in faith and assurance." Just then, a shadow crossed their path. A traveler approached from the direction of the well. His figure was cloaked, and his presence commanded attention. As he drew near, Sarah's heart quickened, for she sensed a divine purpose wrapped in the stranger's approach. "Greetings, O inhabitants of this vast expanse," he said, his voice rich and resonant. "I bear tidings that shall change the course of your lives. I come as a messenger from the Most High." Abraham stood firm, his heart racing yet anchored by the promise he clung to. "Speak, O messenger. If you come from the Lord, let your words be heard." The traveler stood before them, lifting his hands. "I bring you the decree of heaven, which shall soon be manifest in your midst. By this time next year, Sarah shall bear a son." A breath caught in Sarah's throat. She looked to Abraham for corroboration, for the wildness of hope flared within her spirit. "Me?" she questioned, incredulous. "At my age? Can such a miracle occur?" The traveler met her eyes, the weight of his gaze penetrating the depths of her doubt. "Is anything too hard for the Lord? For he who calls the stars by name is faithful to his promise. Laughter shall erupt from you, a joy that generations shall echo. Prepare your hearts, for the time is near." Abraham caught Sarah's hand, their fingers interlocking with newfound urgency and exhilaration. Yet in Ishmael, confusion deepened. "Who is this man?" he asked, eyes wide with both disbelief and curiosity. The traveler turned to Ishmael, smiling gently. "Fear not, young one. You too shall witness the faithfulness of God. For from your lineage will arise a great nation, and your life is woven into this divine tapestry." Abraham pulled Ishmael closer, his heart swelling with emotion. "You are part of our legacy as surely as Isaac shall be. The Lord's promises embrace us all, in ways we do not yet comprehend." With every heartbeat, Sarah felt the weight of divine assurance. The laughter of her heart echoed the promises of the Almighty. Yet also weighed upon her was an unspoken fear what trials would accompany this promised joy. As the sun reached its zenith, the air hummed with possibility. They returned to their tasks, each moment tinged with expectancy, each sound a note in the symphony of fulfillment. Out of the stillness, the traveler turned to leave, but not without offering a final reminder. "Remember, for all that you believe, the paths of the Lord are shrouded in mystery until the day of revelation arrives. So hold fast to faith, for a new chapter unfolds, with laughter not just as a promise but as a key unlocking nations to come." And as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows, the echoes of uncertainty wove into an intricate design, a divine story still in the making. For indeed, laughter was on the horizon, yet what twists awaited them on this journey into God's sovereign plan remained but a whisper in the winds of time. As the sun set upon the encampment of Abraham and Sarah, the land was awash in the hues of twilight, a stunning canvas painted by the hand of the Creator. Each shade of orange and purple was a testament to the intricate beauty of divine artistry, the culmination of years marked by hope, struggle, and unwavering faith. The days had turned to weeks, the promise lingered palpably in the air, both a gentle reminder and a solemn assurance that God had not forgotten his covenant. The very soil beneath their feet seemed to hum with anticipation, whispering secrets of what was to come. Then, the fateful day arrived. Abraham awoke, heart surging with expectation, prayers rising from his spirit like incense. The morning broke tenderly, as if heaven itself was punctuating the significance of this moment. "Today," he declared, meeting Sarah's gaze, his faith ignited by the memory of God's promises fulfilled. Sarah, too, awakened with an unfamiliar energy coursing through her veins. In her heart, mingled elation and trepidation. "Will this truly be the day, Lord?" she murmured to the skies, where clouds lazily drifted across the blue expanse. Her body, though weary with age, felt a stirring she had long believed was extinguished. As the sun climbed higher, they stood together, hand in hand, overlooking their vast estate. Just as the light enveloped them, they perceived the silhouette of a heavenly being moving toward them. It was the same messenger from their previous encounter, radiant with divine authority. "Abraham. Sarah," he proclaimed, his voice echoing like a glorious trumpeting across the lands. "The Lord has heard your cries, this very moment is upon you. At this same time next year, you shall cradle your son, Isaac. His laughter will become a melody that reverberates through your tents and into generations yet born." A collective breath caught in the air, electrified with the weight of divine promise. Abraham fell prostrate before the messenger, his heart overflowing with gratitude. O Lord, you are faithful. Your word has proven true from the beginning, and now we rejoice in the fulfillment of your covenant. Sarah, overwhelmed, laughed not the laugh of disbelief from years past, but one of pure exuberance, mingled with the tears of a heart that had borne the weight of longing. Who am I, O God, that you have granted me such grace? Will the world know joy through this little one? The messenger smiled warmly, his presence a soothing balm to their weary souls. Indeed, Sarah, your laughter will echo in the hearts of many. Isaac shall bring forth nations, and your line shall carry the promise of redemption through the ages. Days turned to weeks again, filled with a fervent anticipation that welled within their hearts. The promise knit together their family, uniting them in ways they had not yet understood. In the shadow of their legacy, Ishmael sensed the change, and though initially burdened with questions, he too began to embrace the flicker of hope that illuminated the family dynamic. Father, he approached Abraham one evening, his voice tempered with both timidity and love, will I still have a place? Will I not share in the joy of this new son? Abraham smiled, wrapping his arms around Ishmael. My beloved son, you are as much a part of this promise as Isaac. You are cherished and loved. The impact of your life is woven into the fabric of God's grand design, a blessing that will extend beyond what we can see. On the appointed day, the air hummed with marvel and energy as the laughter of new life bubbled forth into the encampment. Amidst the gathering of family and friends, Sarah bore her son, Isaac, and with each cry that echoed across the valleys, laughter erupted, heaven's own melody birthed amongst humanity. Abraham and Sarah marveled as their hearts filled with joy and wonder, a divine assurance as ancient as the hills around them. Isaac was placed gently into their arms, the tangible embodiment of a promise fulfilled, a merge of heart, history, and hope. As the years rolled on, Isaac blossomed into a child surrounded by love, a vessel of legacy whose very name echoed the laughter of faith. Nations and peoples cycled through the annals of history, but the essence of their story rang true like a bell, reminding all who heard it of the unfailing promises of a faithful God. For the journey of Abraham and Sarah had not merely been about the fulfillment of personal longing, it had been woven into the grand tapestry of divine redemption, one that would ripple through the streets of time, heralding the coming of a Savior who would bear the weight of all humanity, inviting them into the everlasting embrace of joy promised long ago. And as the sun set on their lives, they took comfort in the knowledge that every challenge met, every doubt faced, and every tear shed was a part of a magnificent design, a love story penned by the hand of God Himself, where laughter and legacy intertwined to create a symphony of hope. Now, dear friend, the divine call still echoes through the ages, inviting you to share in this miraculous journey of faith. If this story of Abraham and Sarah has touched your heart, you need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and not miss the next powerful biblical stories. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm, and comment your reflections on how this biblical tale has impacted your faith. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who long to hear God's truth. Together, let us carry the torch of His promises into the world.